Howdy, folks, and welcome to the first ever episode of What Page You On with me, your host, Luke, the Ginger Bookworm. Now, I just want to start off by saying that I am incredibly excited, really nervous, anxious, um, and all that good stuff. And I just want to start by saying thank you to everybody who's currently listening. It means a lot, and I will. Um, oh God, I am just really, really excited. So I figured for the first ever episode, instead of deep diving into a topic or going mad and crazy about anything really deep and nerdy, I figured I'll do an introduction. I'll choose this first episode to just talk about myself, be big-headed, you know, stroke my ego, and give you guys a reason to listen, because majority of you won't know who I am, and there'll be no reason whatsoever for you guys to actually want to keep listening if you don't know who I am and know as to why I'm here or why I'm doing this. So I figured I'd give an introduction, I'll slow down, and I think it will give me a chance to kind of relax and ease into this process. Because like I said, I'm new, so I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to I'm going to um, and it's going to be a learning curve. So, the first few episodes might not be great, but I'm excited as in the adventure that we are going to go on. So, the introduction. Who am I? Well, my name is Luke. I'm 23 years old. I'm British. I'm ginger. I'm a huge nerd. I love reading. I love writing. I play video games. I've been playing video games since I was, oh God. Um, Well, oh, is 3, 4? Is that believable? I vaguely remember watching my dad play, Lara Croft when I was about 3, and then I remember I got like my first console was like a GameCube. Yeah, I think it was a GameCube, and then I went from a GameCube to a, oh God, PlayStation 2. Then my sister had a Dreamcast. I know Dreamcast. What a deep sort of cut that is. Um, and then from there I was just from PlayStation 2 to Xbox Original, and then it's just been Xbox ever since. Really, I do have a PC. I do PC game a bit, but not really a lot. It's not really a big thing that I'm into. I'm more into my consoles. I just like the idea of not having to, buy all the parts and all that. Just kind of sit down, plug myself down, get a controller, plug it in, put the disc in, and it's done. All the hard stuff's done. I just have to buy the game. Um, so that's sort of, a little bit about myself. Just to kind of ease you in to kind of understand who I am. Um, I have a sort of degree in game design. Um, it's a oh god, I forgot it wasn't that long ago that I graduated, and I forgot what it is. It's a bachelor's in science in game design, specializing in virtual reality and augmented reality. Um, what that basically means is that I am super qualified to do game design, but I realized halfway near to the end that it wasn't game design that I wanted to do. I want to be a writer. So that was 4 years well spent. But when it comes to video games and that, which we will talk about in the future, I have a very sort of um, good grasp about the idea of how they're made and what goes into them. And I think that'll be quite interesting to talk about as well. As well as being a huge nerd again with the gaming, I have been a nerd since I was very little with sci-fi, fantasy. Big fan of Lord of the Rings, which we will talk about. Don't worry about that. Comics, Marvel, DC. I've got statues all around me in my room. Literally, if I had a camera right now when I was doing this on camera, and I would give you a tour of my room, it is basically a room of a 14-year-old. I don't mind it, to be honest, but I understand that if I was ever to bring anybody around, it would generally think this is your brother's room. This is not your room, and I'd be like, no, no, this is mine. So I am ready for that awkward conversation when it comes. But yeah, that's just a brief sort of introduction to myself as we go along and as we get into more episodes. Hopefully, um, I will sort of reveal more layers of myself. At the moment I'm going to stay sort of like an onion. I'm going to be like layers. I'm going to be like Shrek. I'm going to keep it all to myself, not give it all away. Sort of at the beginning. Um, and then slowly start to peel layers away, and then as we sort of go in the episodes, I will get more relaxed and less nervous, and eventually I'll become more of myself. One thing I do want to mention though before we get into the main topics is I am dyslexic. I have dyslexia, dyscalculia, which means that well, layman's terms, I'm not very good with English, maths. But what it also means is the fact of I tend to drift not just when I walk, but also when I talk. So I tend to go off in tandems. I tend to say I'll be talking about one subject, and there's a potentiality that I will go off on the subject. Um, but someone, even though that will happen, for some incredible reason, I could go off tandem completely, but somehow come do a full 180 and come right back round, and what I was talking about would somehow make sense to what I was talking about originally. It's very weird. You will notice it. It is very noticeable when I do it, but I tend to somehow bring myself back around to what I was saying. So I just wanted to warn anybody listening that there are moments where I will go off on a tandem, that I will start just on one topic and then I will just somehow go off and go somewhere else. But I will always come back, so don't worry so much there. But no, I'm really, really excited. I really am. As you can tell, I'm nervous, and most people would be like, "Oh, don't be so nervous. Don't be so anxious." But I'm in like, "Oh, edit it out. Make sure you sound confident always, constantly." But I feel that makes me genuine. I am genuinely a nervous person. I am generally an awkward person. And when it comes to doing stuff like this, it's new. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be a pro at it when I first give it a go. So there are going to be mistakes. I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to um, overthink things, and I'm going to panic, and I'm going to be like, oh, was that not good enough? It's human. I'm only human at the end of the day, so I want to keep all the and ahhing in, and I want to sort of evolve. And so as the episodes go on, and like I said, hopefully I will sort of get better, and then you will hear less of that. But as you can tell, I want to keep it in because it's genuine. It's authentic. You, the listener, then know that I'm excited and I am anxious because this is something that I want to do, and I'll get into that more in a minute. So, enough rambling. Let's get into sort of the topic. So, I've introduced myself. You know vaguely much a bit who I am, and we'll learn more about who I am and why I'm here and all that jazz as we go on in more episodes. But I wanted to talk about why I wanted to do a podcast. Well, to be honest, it was never a dream of mine to do in the beginning, if I'm being completely 100%. Um, take you back in history a bit, in my own history. Around 2010, 2012, when I was in senior school, YouTube was just becoming a thing. YouTube was it wasn't as big as it is now. You didn't really have YouTubers. They were just people that made content online. That was it. I don't think they had a name. But it was the renaissance, yeah, renaissance of like that sort of, festering and starting to grow. And as a young teen, it was like, oh my God, I want to do that. That's incredible. And I had a lot of friends that did it. They friends that did blogs, or friends that had like capture cards, and they did like little capture bits of gameplay and stuff like that. But me, it was always the fact, if I want to do it, I just never have the time or never really had the drive. It was always that thing of, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? So, but I always thought, like, you know what? I'll finish school soon. In a couple of years, I'll be done with school. And then when I'm going to college, I'll be in college, really cool, suave. And I'll be like, yeah, I've got some money now. I'll go buy myself a capture card and get into it. The problem is I'm a very education focused person. So when I got to the 6 weeks holiday in between finishing school and starting college, I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know what? No. I haven't got a computer and I haven't got this. Like, there were so many excuses, and it was just like, I've got a big stack of books over there. I'm going to go read them. And with doing that, that's then started off my love of reading. And ever since then, I've read almost 50 to 100 books every year. It is an addiction, I will admit, but it's a healthy one, kind of. But we'll get into that one a bit later. But because of that, it was just like, okay, so I will do the 2 years of college. Once college is out the way, within the break, I will have a bit more tech knowledge about computers and how they work, and then I'll get into doing a YouTube channel. Again, it was always going to be gaming focus. It was going to be talk about games at first, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I could do this, maybe I can do that, and I was really hyping myself up. 2 years of college goes by, got the 6 weeks holiday before the start of university. I don't do it. It doesn't happen. Generally, that's quite a prevailing sort of thing with me. Is I want to do it, and I think about doing it, and I get myself worked up to do it, but I tend to don't, and I don't know why. But you university came in, 4 years of university. As I was go through university, I thought, you know what? Okay, while I'm in university, if I'm not going to do it, then I'm never going to do it. Like, I've got to give it a go. So I tried. It didn't do very well, and I wasn't really that great with the editing software. And I thought, you know what? This is a lot of hassle, and I'm stressing myself out with university being very stressful as it is. I figured, you know what? I'll chill out. I either won't do it or I'll put it on the back burner for the future. So that's what I did. At the same vein, I had a lot of friends who were really into streaming, and they was like, "Oh, Luke, streaming is fantastic. You can make money. It's great." It was a very much like, come on, invest. This is something that's easy. And I thought, well, I've got a computer, I've got a console. The newer consoles, you can stream off them. They have built-in capture cards. Like a majority of the hard work is done. The people have already laid the groundwork. All you've got to do is step on top of them, walk among the people that have laid the groundwork, and you've got an easy way. So again, I set up a Twitch, and I was big on it. I actually got quite further in that than I did with YouTube. I was like, I was advertising it. I was making sort of edits and like graphics, so it's things that can go on. It can be really great. And then, as you might have guessed, I got to that point, and I was like, I ain't got the time. I just don't have the time to really, because I looked into it, and obviously to get the most out of streaming, to get the most out of doing it, you have to do it for long hours. It's not just, oh, I can stream an hour or two here. Like, you've got to do at least 4 to 5 hours for it to be profitable. You can't just do an hour here. And it's like, I have more things I want to do. Like, I'm a huge book addict. I love to read. There's never a moment when I'm not reading to a book or listening to an audiobook. So I just don't have the time to sit and game for hours and hours and hours. There's other things that I want to do, and there's things and places I want to go, and X, Y, and Z. So it was like, I want to live. I just don't want to sit on my ass all day. Like, no offense to anybody that streams, but it just wasn't for me. It's like, I'm a too active person. I want to move about. I just don't want to sit there. Even now, when I game for pleasure, I time myself. I limit myself. I'm like, okay, look, you've been playing for like 3-4 hours now. Maybe cut it down. Go watch some TV. Read a book. Do something else. I'm very much like, I father myself. As your parents probably did. Of like, they come into your room and be like, okay, you've little Jimmy. You've played too many hours of Halo. You've got to like chill out now. Go do some homework. And like, the kids like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, that was me growing up. I was like, no, I used to spend hours and hours on Halo Reach. Halo Reach was my game. I literally destroyed that game because I just played so many hours on it. And I'd play late into the night, and I'd be tired in the morning for school. I mean, as like time's gone on, I've realised that I'm not, even though I'm only 23, I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't really want to play games as late as I used to. And again, it comes into the stream, and I've like, I just don't have, well, I do have the time. I just want to spend it elsewhere. So again, streaming was never something that came into fruition for me. And then COVID happened, and I know I won't go into COVID because it's a very depressing subject. But COVID happened, had the first lockdown here in the UK, and it was like, well, I can't go anywhere, and I only get one audiobook a month through Audible. I'm running through quickly. Of all the books that I've got, like, I read 200 books during the first lockdown in 2020, right? So that should tell you how quick I was burning through books. And I think I need something else. I need something else to keep my attention. I need something that's going to sort of keep my focus, because at the moment I am looking for something, and I've played all my games. I'm almost read all my books. I'm getting one audiobook a month. I need something else. And as you do, you look around, you kind of look for new hobbies. And I found, almost by accident, the Joe Rogan podcast. I found it on YouTube because I went through all of my people that I subscribe on YouTube. I'd watched all of their videos, and it was like, I'm I've done everything. There's nothing new. I don't want to wait for them to make new content. I was really impatient. Because as most people probably were, they were running out of things to do. Because when you have nothing to do but stay at home, you do everything that you said you were going to do, and then once you've done that, then you realize that you've got nothing left to do. And so that was my issue. That was my problem. So it was like, I need something. So I went to that section of YouTube that most people don't go, which is the beginning opening page, where it's like the selected, the things that we think you might like. So I went on there and I just scrolled through, and majority of it is crap. Majority of it is tat. Um, but I scroll through, and there was I didn't even know who Joe Rogan was properly. I knew he was a comedian, but as far as that, I didn't know who he was. So I looked through it and I was like, oh, that's not interesting. And it was him talking to somebody else about UFOs and aliens. Again, as you can probably imagine, I am a huge geek when it comes to aliens and conspiracy theories and aliens and X-Files and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I checked that out and I listened to it and I was hooked immediately, straight away. I was hooked. I just loved the idea of two people or two and three people talking to each other about a topic or about something they love, something they're passionate about, and that led me to downloading Spotify, to subscribing to the Joe Rogan podcast, and just listening to his old episodes as well as his newer episodes. And it became sort of like, I'll listen to an audiobook, then I will go off and I will listen to a podcast for about an hour to 2 hours, because Joe Rogan's, they go on for hours and hours and hours. And then I'll come back, listen to another audiobook, and go back and forth. Um, that was my sort of idea. That was the concept that I was going with. But after a while, it was like, I need more. So I kind of explored more podcasts, and I found the Friendship Onion with Merry and Pippin, the two hobbits from Lord of the Rings. Um, they do a fantastic podcast. I highly recommend the Friendship Onion. I highly recommend the Joe Rogan podcast as well. It's probably one of the most popular ones, if I'm being honest. And then I found Taskmaster. Now, if you live in the UK, you probably know what Taskmaster is, but Taskmaster basically is a show where they get comedians together to do silly sort of tasks, like a lot of what if sort of tasks of, like, get this coconut and turn it into a businessman, and whoever does it in the time limit wins 5 points, 4 points, 3 or 2 or 1 points. It's very silly, very comical. It's very popular here in the UK. You could probably find it somewhere on YouTube if you don't live in the UK. It's really, really fun. I highly recommend it to everybody. But they have a podcast where they basically talk about the episodes, and they bring on old guests, and they bring on people, other comedians, to talk about sort of the episodes. It's really fun. So I got into that. But as I was going through these podcasts, it was a lot like, this is something I know I can do. This is something that I feel I could do confidently. Like, as you can probably tell, we're going on 18 minutes now, and I have basically talked for this long, and I haven't stopped. Um, I have a talent. Well, I call it a talent. Most people just call it annoying. But I have a talent for talking for England. I can literally just talk and talk and talk, especially if it's a subject or a topic that I'm very confident in, or I am very passionate about. I can just talk and talk and talk about. And I just thought that's a great thing to have when you want to do a podcast. Somebody who can literally just talk, you know. I do have a problem. I have noticed as I'm doing this that I might be talking a bit too quickly, and if I am, I'm sorry. I am trying to sort of slow myself down. That's another thing. When I get excited as well, I get faster. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm part Irish. I just tend to speed up. But I need to sort of slow down and sort of take it easy. But I realize, because I have this skill, because I can talk so much, that this is a great medium for me. This is something that I can do confidently. So I figured I'll look into it, and I spent 2 years, 2020 to 2021, just listening to majority of podcasts that I could find, how it was worked, how they were structured, researching it, looking into actually doing it. And eventually I got to near the end of 2021, which was not that long ago from recording this. And I thought, you know what? this is something I could do. I'm confident in doing it. All I need to do is just figure out the logistics. What do I need? So I sat down with a mate of mine, and um, because I'm a very I'm very scatterbrained. When I get a plan and idea, I want to do everything and everything at all at the same time. So she laid out a plan for me. She's like, you need this, 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 and this. Don't move on to this until you've done that. So I had a list of things that I needed, and I went from list to list. So it was first microphone, and I thought, well, I looked online for microphones, and I thought I found the one I want. It's currently quite expensive, so I'll keep it on my wish list, and I'll wait for it to go on sale. Because originally I wanted to do it through. You can do this app through your computer, and that was my original idea. It was that if I could run this app through my computer, then it's quite a lot easier. Kind of very sort of professional. But the headset that I'm using now, which I'll get onto in a minute, doesn't work on my PC. Again, I don't know why. I tried to troubleshoot it, couldn't work. So my next thing was like, well, I found a mic I'll look into, and I'll save that for later for a rainy day. So we can scratch that one off when we come back to it. The next one was a platform. Again, first time me doing this, I have no idea how it works or how you do a sort of podcast. It was just something that I wanted to do. So I had to do my research. I had to look into how platforms work, and quite by chance, quite lucky, just by scrolling through Twitter, I noticed that somebody had started up a podcast and that they linked in Anchor, this app that I'm using now. I was like, Anchor, what's that? So I looked into it, and it was by Spotify, and everything was there to do podcasts. It was generally just like you come on here, you create a page, and you record yourself, and then once you're done, you post it, and if you want, that then can go onto Spotify straight away. That can go onto Apple Podcasts straight away, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get podcasts, it will just be put on there as soon as you're finished. All you have to do is create a trailer, and from there, you're off. So I figured, wow, all the hard work is done for me. I'm making myself sound really lazy. I'm not. I am quite passionate. I do put the work in, but like if I realize to myself it's going to take a lot of time, or that it's going to be very much of a hassle, then I tend to not want to do it. Because I cherish the time I have. I'm very sort of hippy dippy and spiritual, and I cherish the time I have, and the time I have in life, and how much time we have on this planet. So I don't like to waste it. If I know that it's going nowhere, I will happily drop it and move on to something else. Then sort of stick to something that I know it's not going anywhere. And with podcasting, again, it was something that I knew that I could do. It's quite simple, quite easy, and as soon as I found the Anchor app, I knew from that point on it was something that was tangible. It was something that genuinely all the hard work is done. I don't have to worry about figuring out how to put my podcast everywhere so everybody can see it, so I can get new people to follow me and new people to listen. There was no worry of that. It's all done for me. Genuinely, all you have to do is get a mic, record yourself for a few minutes, post it, and then it's done. It's out into the ether. It's out of my hands. It's done. It's been handled with. So I thought, what, this is just fantastic. I don't have to do anything. It's all done for me. So from that point on, it was like, okay, so I have the mic, I have the platform. Now I've just got to think about a name. The name was really, really difficult, to be honest. The name was the hard part, because I wanted a name that was catchy, that was short, that was memorable, and wasn't sort of too sort of simple. And after brainstorming with my friend, we basically landed on What Page Are You On? And I know it doesn't sound very original, and I'm sure I've probably heard it somewhere else, and other people, and you folks listening, you folks have probably heard it somewhere else as well. But I feel the reason why I went with What Page You On is because there's a deeper meaning behind it. And again, I'm going to get quite deep on you right now, so bear with me. On the surface of it, you can just see it as what page you on, whereas it could be a book, what page of a book you want. But the way I saw it is, whenever you say to somebody about what their opinion is, you always say, well, what page are they on? Are they for or against? Do they like Marvel or do they like DC? You know, do they like X-Men? But do they not like Wolverine? Again, that's kind of a crazy one because everybody loves Wolverine. But people on different pages, and that's the deeper meaning behind it. The idea of, you know, I'm a fan, I'm a super fan when it comes to anything nerdy, but there are things that I don't like. You know, I have things that I like. I'm on the good page, and I have bad pages. And I figured, you know, it's a very deep sort of thing, name. You know, when you really think about it. Um, Also, you know, I was thinking about with this podcast, which I talk about more in a minute. I was thinking about having guests on, having people to talk to about different sort of types of fandom. You know, the Harry Potter fan, the Star Wars fan, the Lord of the Rings fan, the fan that cosplays, the fan that makes their own costumes, the fan that does fan art, does stuff like that. So I wanted to get different guests in from different sort of genres of the nerd of the, well, I don't know what to call it, the nerd society, and just to talk to them. Um, have a few episodes where it's just me, and then hopefully bring in guests for the future. Again, I'll talk about that a bit more in the future in a minute. But that's the kind of idea about it: is what page are you on? You know, whatever we're talking about that page, we're talking about that topic. And that if I have a guest on, I will talk about their opinions. What do they think of the topic? Do they like it? Do they dislike it? You know, have a proper deep dive, dirty, filthy, get sort of muddy discussion about said topic. And I think that would be kind of fun and interesting. More interesting than me just talking basically to myself and hoping that people on the internet are listening. Um, so that's the idea behind the name. Again, it doesn't sound original, but when you properly sit down and think about it, it is kind of deep and mystical. Or maybe I'm just thinking too much in it. I don't know. Um, so that's the name thing. So once all those are over, it was basically just down to me doing it. You know, just getting around and actually doing the podcast. Hold on one second. I'm getting really, really dry mouth. So I'm gonna have a sip of tea. Hopefully, the mic doesn't pick it up. No, my look, that's probably really, really loud right now. I'm really sorry if that was loud. My swallowing. So where was I? Right. Okay. So starting the podcast. So the easy part about Anchor, it was just like all you have to do is do a trailer. So for me, the hardest part after doing the name was the trailer because I was thinking, oh, a trailer has to be 2 to 3 minutes long. So I planned out this whole sort of huge spiel that was going to span 2 to 3 minutes, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to um, what's the word I'm looking for now? I'm going to have loads of time to just explain who I am, what I'm doing. You know, kind of did like I did in the introduction of this video, with just like talk about myself and blah blah blah, and then why you should listen, and then sort of end it. And then as soon as I pressed the start of doing the trailer, it was like you have 1 minute. It was like what? I'd planned for 2 to 3. I had not planned for 1 minute. You can't do this to me. And I was really sort of taken aback, and it really sort of got me and panicked me. But I was like, you know what? No, you can do this. Calm down, relax. So I figured, you know what? This is fine. You know, I'm this is okay. So I rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and I pressed record, and I bombed terribly, terribly, terribly bombed. I literally went down so badly. Because again, I was really nervous. I was really anxious. I wasn't expecting to sit and do a minute. I was expecting to have a lot longer. So it was like, uh, um, um, howdy folks, welcome to my podcast. I was being really quiet and I was stuttering. I was like, I had to do it like good 2 3 times, and I was like, you know what, Luke, calm down, relax. Yes, you only have a minute, but rehearse and think about what you're going to have to say, then just do it. Just be you, be unique, be genuine, be nervous, but be clear, and just say what needs to be said. You don't need to tell him a story, just go to the point. And that was basically my idea behind it, was like, I'm just going to go for it. So I got a piece of paper, I wrote down quick notes about what I need to say and what's important, and I stick to them notes. Don't go off, don't do anything like that, stick to what I've written. And on the fourth or fifth try, I went for it, and that was the trailer you listened to. I know near to the end of that trailer, I messed up a bit. and I was going to re-record it, but I sent it to a friend of mine first, and she said, "No, don't re-record it. That's perfect. You're nervous, you're anxious, yes, but that makes it genuine, that makes it honest, that makes it real. At the end of the day, you've never done a podcast before, you can't be expected to be a pro. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to sound like an idiot at first, but that's okay because everybody has to start somewhere. So you might have messed up at the end a bit, and you might have sneezed or you might have coughed or whatever, but that's okay. We can work that out as you go through doing sort of each episode of the podcast and you get more confident. But right now, what matters is you've done it. It sounds great. You've got your point across. Use it. So I published it and I sent it to a few friends and I got all really positive feedback off everybody. And it gave me the courage of like, okay, so if I can do 1 minute, I can do 30. You know what I mean? It now sounds crazy, but it was like, if I can do a minute, I can do 30. This is something that I can do. And I thought, well, now the hard part's over. The hard part is doing the trailer, because you have a minute, you have to rush, you have to be to the point, you got to be specific, you've got to talk quickly, which I can do, but I tend to kind of So now the hard part's over. I figured all I have to do now is sit down, figure out what I want to talk about for the first episode, and just talk, but talk slowly. I can take my time. I don't have to worry about, oh God, it's too long, I'm saying too much, people don't want to listen, blah, blah. All I got to do is put the headset on, press record, and go for it. And this is what I'm doing now. So as you can probably tell, as this has gone on, I've got more relaxed, I've got more calm. There's no need to panic, there's no need to overthink. It's just talk. You know what I mean? Have fun, enjoy it. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I hope it conveys that way. So that is as to why I wanted to do a podcast, and kind of my sort of introduction to doing it now. Because it's like I said, it's something that is it's a great medium. It's just simple. All you got to do is to get a mic and you've just got to talk. And if you can talk, it's fantastic. Leading on from that, what are my plans with it? Well, I already mentioned a little bit just about what my plans are for doing the podcast. As I said in the beginning, and I said in the trailer, this podcast is basically anything and everything nerdy. From cosplays to the hardcore nerds to topics that I don't really have much to talk about. I'm like, for example, I want to get into the 40k universe. I think it's incredibly fascinating. I've been watching like 2 to 3 hour long documentaries on YouTube about the lore of this world, and I still don't get it. And I've watched a good 8 to 9 hours of these bloody things. So I'd like to get somebody on who is a 40k sort of nerd and can explain to me the world of 40k and sort of talk me through it. And I feel like that'd be a topic that'd be interesting for people to listen to, as well as hopefully getting guests on. I have a friend of mine who's a seamstress, and she makes all her own cosplays, mainly Doctor Who, but she makes all her own cosplays. And I'd like to get her on, the idea, the what goes into making a costume and all that sort of thing. So my plans for the future is I will have 1 or 2 episodes where it would just me, as it is now, just talking about a specific topic, and then I might have an episode or two, depending on if I can get the people in, have guests in to kind of sit to talk with me, and it'll be I would prefer to have somebody here. When I originally wanted to do a podcast, I planned to do it with somebody else. I planned to do it with a friend, but majority of my friends, after lockdown sort of went away, it was like they became busy. They went back to life, went back to work, which is completely fine. I'm not there's nothing wrong with that. So I ended up figuring, if I can't wait for other people. I either have to do it myself, or I'm not going to do it at all. So here I am doing it on my own. But I still thought, like, you know what, I can still have guests. And one of the lovely things I love about this app is that you can have guests. I mean, you can invite people to the podcast, and then you can sit and you can sort of have a chat, and all it does, you have to send a link. It's that simple. So I love it. I think I'm already in love with this app. I think I want to marry this app. Somebody get me a wedding ring. But so that's my plan, is that I am going to have myself talk for a bit, and then I might bring in a guest, and then maybe in the future I might play some trivia, might have some games, like when I get more people who will listen, to are what is it? Is it fans? Is it listeners? I don't know what you class it as. but I might introduce people on, ask people to ask me questions about certain different topics, or get people on and we can do trivia. There's things that I planning that hopefully when I get the fan base, or the listener base, that I can ask and do, and it'll just be a fun little thing for people to um, get involved with. Like I say, it's a safe space everywhere people can talk anything nerdy, anything that they want. I would try my best not to get too political, but just sort of had fun. Just talk about the things that you love. That's one of the joys of being a nerd, is that you can share it among those that you love, and just get really sort of not physical, quite sort of emotional, and quite sort of in depth with talking about Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and things that we're really passionate about. And that's what I want to do. I want to have those conversations with you guys, just one on one, and I want to get other people in who are just as passionate as I am about these topics, and to come in and just sort of have a platform where they can just emote how much they love a topic. And I think that would be kind of nice. So that's my plans um, for the future of um, what I want to do. Um, I've got a few guests that I can think of at the moment, and I've asked a few people, and they said they're completely up for it. So hopefully in the future, maybe February, March, or actually, then again, what are we? It's the 13th of January at the moment, so maybe this month we might get a guest on talking about certain topics. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I want to do it on my own just for a bit, maybe for like another episode or two, just so I can get comfortable and confident in how the app works. And then once I get that confidence and understanding of how to do certain things, then I'll bring a guest on, and then we can properly sort of get really sort of down and dirty and muddy and filthy down specific sort of topics. Now, I've got that out of the way. I figured that we sort of bring this sort of to a close, and that we just sort of chill out and get a little bit nerdy. You know what I mean? Get a little bit sort of filthy, just a bit, just a tiny bit muddy. Not too much where your mum will have a go at you and make you have to wash your clothes, but just enough where you get a little bit sort of on your hands. So I thought I'd end it getting all the boring stuff out the way, and we'll talk about what I'm currently reading, what I'm listening to, what I'm playing, etc. So currently, what am I reading? Well, I've not long finished. Hold on, let me grab it. The subtle art of not giving. Hold on, what can I say? This? Am I allowed to swear on here? Is there rules behind swearing? Well, then again, I've been going for 37 minutes, soon to be just this second 38. So I feel like I can say it. It's a book title, so it's okay. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. Honestly, the book's trash. Uh, that's my basic and simple sort of review of it. Really, it's trash. It is terrible. It's a self-help book. You can probably recognize the name. It's a giant orange book. You can't really miss it when you go into a bookstore. But the basic sort of premise of it is that, as the name says, you have to not give a fuck about things. You have to not care about stuff. You only care about or give a fuck about things that you have control of. So, example, if you fancied somebody, you really, really like somebody, but they didn't like you back, you can't control that. You can't control how another person feels. So, yes, it will hurt, but you have to choose what you give a fuck about. So, because you can't control it, don't care about it. Even though it hurts, try your best to not give a fuck, and then care about things that you can control, love, like your happiness, your health, your friends, family, stuff like that. And on the surface, it is a very catchy name. It is a very sort of funky title. But when you get into it, and as I did, I realized this book is nothing more than just common sense. It is generally common sense. It's like reading somebody's thesis or somebody's dissertation that they first wrote. I don't know if anybody listens ever written a dissertation, but when you first write one, you think it's a dog's bollocks. You think it's excellent, but it's not until you write a few more papers, and then you come back to your first paper and you realize that I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and it's terrible. It's crap. You just tend to, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I have no idea how I got this mark, this grade for it. It deserves less. You really sort of break your work down, because you do, as your work improves, the more you write, the more you improve. And when you do your first bit of writing, it's never fantastic, never great. I know that as a writer myself. A lot of the stuff that I wrote when I was a lot younger is terrible compared to what I write now. So we always learn, and this is what it feels like. It feels like this book was a first attempt of doing a self-help book using common sense, and I guess in a way for some people this would work, but for me it just didn't. Like, I'm a very sort of spiritual person. I'm a very sort of into meditation and into positivity and all that, and I guess it's a good mark for myself. It's a good mark for who I am and what I practice and preach, because I am sort of a lot of this stuff I already do. A lot of all this stuff I already know. So um, there's there was nothing new to learn. And I guess in a way you could say, well, you should be proud of that. You should be proud of the fact that, like, that's something that you already do everything in this book, so you should be proud of it. And in a way I was proud of it. But in the same page, I'm not judging it on me. I'm judging it on the book itself, and I'm judging on my experience with the book. And my experience is that it's very poorly written. It's got the author uses quotes and stories about certain sort of things. It's like, as you do when you try to bulk up your dissertation. I did it as well, and I know a lot of people who did it. And even my tutor was like, people always do it when they first write a paper, is that you try to bulk up your word count with quotes. You try to, and with not just short quotes, long quotes, really, really long quotes, or you try to use stories and stuff like that to kind of fill out the word count. And we ended up, when I was in university, we was ended up being sat down with a sort of proper professor who's written tons and tons of papers, and even they admitted that they do that. They did that for the first few times, and you quickly realise that um, you lose the reader. As soon as you start putting in loads and loads of quotes in, you quickly lose the reader, because then the reader knows it's not you talking. It's not your experience, especially when you do a self-help book. It's all well and good putting in quotes from other people or professionals in, but you need to have more of your own quotes. You need to have more of your own work. You can't just have more reference to other people, because the reader will read that and realize, well, hold on a second, is this person genuine? Do they are they genuinely talking about what they, do they believe what they are saying, and you tentatively lose your reader. And it did. This book lost me, because there were so many quotes and there were so many references to other people's work and what people said. I'm like, hold on, are you plagiarizing other people's work? Did you properly deep dive into other people's work, or did you just read the heading and you read the introduction and it was like, that's it, I've got it, I don't need to read anymore, I know everything about this paper, I'm just going to write my book now? And that's what it felt like for me. It just felt rushed. It felt like the author was just trying too much. Because with me, with self-help books, I have a love-hate relationship with them. 50-50. I either love them or I hate them. And my problem with self-help books is majority of them are preachy. Majority of them are like pointing their finger in your face of saying, it's your fault you didn't buy this book earlier. It's your fault this book wasn't written earlier, so you could have had it even though it wasn't written when you needed it, and all this jazz. Um, you're wrong. Everything you've been doing up until this point is wrong. You're an idiot. Blah 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 blah. I don't like. There are self-help books like that. Generally, they point the finger and they call you an idiot, and that it's your fault. Your life's messed up, and all this jazz. Right? I don't like books like that. Self-help books should be like therapy. CBT therapy or just normal therapy. It should be very welcoming, very calm, very much like, for example, if you had depression, it would be like, I have depression, I feel like this, and I don't want to do that, and so on and so forth. And then the therapist would be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, I understand. Here's a technique, here's a tool, here's something that you can use to try and help you when you feel depressed or when you feel like you feel low. Go away for a week or two, practice this technique wherever you can, And then when we come back, talk to me about it. So the person will go off and they will come back, and then the therapist will be like, so did the tool technique work? Do you feel like you benefit from it? How did you use it? And you would sit down and you would talk and you would tell them, about how you use the tool, how you felt, how you feel. And um, at the end, the therapist would say, well, did it work? And you would say, yes, it did work. And that, great, we can try something new. We can try another technique for something else that you're feeling, but we can keep that one that we've got. Or the therapist will ask, well, how did it feel? Did it work? And you say no. And instead of being like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll just do something else. We'll rush on ahead to how else you're feeling. Tell me about something new. It's like, okay, it didn't work. We'll stick here and we'll stay here for as long as we need to. We'll then try another technique. We'll try another tool, and we'll rinse and repeat. And we'll just go through. We'll just try and help you as much as we can on that one topic before we move on. That's what a self-help book should be. A self-help book should be: here's a tool, here's a technique. If it worked, fantastic. Let's move on with the book. If it didn't work, don't worry about it. It's okay. We can move on if you want, or we can stay here and we can try something else. And that's what I feel a self-help book should be. It should always be very calming, very lax, very sort of not preachy. Just, here's something you can try. Give this a go. Your life is okay. You've done quite well up to this point. Well done. Not talking to you like a child, but very much like, reassuring, very much like you're doing okay. You're doing fine. You will be okay. That's what a self-help book, in my opinion, should be. And that's why I have a love-hate relationship, because I've read many that are very preachy and very much like, you're a fuck up. You're doing wrong. You need to change your ways now. I don't like books like that. But I guess some people need that kick up the arse. Some people need that extra push to get them to um, change their lives or change their opinion or view, or so on and so forth. For me, it doesn't work. You can't be too forceful, because if you're being forceful, you're being pushy, then I'm not going to read your book. That's the simple premise of that. So, do I recommend The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? No, I do not. I can't recommend it. It's not. I didn't enjoy it. I forced myself to read it, only because I am a book reviewer. That I read a lot of books and I review them on Goodreads. So I force myself to finish books even though I don't like. But I really wish that I DNF'd. I did not finish this book, but I pushed myself through it, and it wasn't worth it. And I'm not going to read any more by Mark Manson in the future. So that's what I was currently reading. I am going to be reading a graphic novel, Gears of War Omnibus Volume 1, which I have in my hand now. It's basically a collection of Gears of War comics. It takes place in between Gears of War 1 and Gears of War 2. So I look forward to starting that. I haven't started it yet. I've flicked through and the art is beautiful. So maybe next week, or whenever I do the next episode, I will fill you in and give you a insider's look about what I think of that book. What I'm currently listening to, I'm currently listening to Carpe Jugulum. I was going to say Carpe Diem then, seize the day, but it's Carpe Jugulum by Terry Pratchett, or in other words, Go for the Throat, or Seize the Throat even. It's by Terry Pratchett. It's a fantastic book. I'm a big fan of Terry Pratchett books. I haven't finished it yet, but the basic premise is that the witches, because it's really hard talking about Terry Pratchett, because Terry Pratchett is so, his world, the Discworld, is so dense and so thick with lore that it's difficult where to begin. Right, I'll give you the basic lowdown so you'll understand what I'm talking about. In the Discworld, you have different book series. You've got Death, Rincewind, which is wizards. You've got the Industrial Revolution. You've got the witches, and there's a few more. But the City Guard. There's loads of little sort of sections, all taking place in this one disc world, but all their own sort of separate stories. And this is the Witches sort of trilogy. This is the final book in the Witches series, which is really, really sad because I really enjoy my time with the Witches. And the main witches are fighting vampires, and in a very Terry Pratchett way. It's very comical. It's very British, incredibly British. Like if you ever want to read a book that is so much like the culture which when where and when it was written, read anything by Terry Pratchett. Every book he's ever written comes off as incredibly British. It's like reading something by Douglas Adams. You read Douglas Adams, and you can just feel the Britishness. You can just feel it's English. You know what I mean? It's very English. It's like reading Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's a very sort of medieval Middle Earth, but it's very British. And that's the thing with Terry Pratchett. His characters are they're so well written that they just feel real. Every one of them just feels like a real person, you know. And for me personally, anyway, when I listen to anything by Terry Pratchett, because the characters feel real and because they are incredibly British, you can read any of Terry Pratchett's books and being like, I know a bloke like that. I know a girl like that. Especially if you live here in the UK, you generally will be like, yeah, I know somebody who's just like that. I've met many people like that, and it's really cool. It really immerses you into the world. It really brings you in, and I can't recommend anything by Terry Pratchett enough. Yeah, he's from his Discworld series to his other books that he's written. The Carpet People, one of the first books he ever written. I haven't read it yet, but it's a. I look forward to it, and I've been heard many sort of amazing things about his first book that he's ever wrote. I'm actually currently looking at it. It's on my bookshelf. I'll get round to it one day, and I'll have a chat with you guys about it. But that's what I'm listening to. Carpe Jugulum. Not really much I can say at the moment because I'm not that far into it. I've been mainly focused on getting the podcast up and running to have free time to sit and listen to it, sadly. But when I finish it again, hopefully by next week or whenever I do the next episode, I'll have more to talk about it, as well as the sort of graphic novel, which the graphic novel's only short. It doesn't take me long to finish graphic novels. Graphic novels, I can get through them quite quickly, mainly because they are just pictures. Um, but the Gears of War one's quite short, so that one won't take me long at all. And what I'm currently playing, I thought I'd end off with what I'm currently playing, make it a bit more sort of nerdy. I'm currently playing through the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Um, give you a bit of a backstory, me and Mass Effect. I am a huge, huge nerd when it comes to Mass Effect. It's funny. I'm not very good at maths, but if you wanted for me to sit down and talk to you about the lore of Mass Effect, I could very easily go a whole day of talking about the lore of Mass Effect, going from every single species, talking about every single faction, every story beat, you know, every bit of lore. I've read the books, I've read the comics. Mass Effect is it's up there with Halo. It's one of them series that I know so much about that to everybody else it would be useless knowledge, but to me it's really important. As it is in nerdism. When being a nerd, you have these things that you are just so addicted to that you just absorb everything and anything you can find about said thing, and you just keep it, you retain it. It's none of it is useful, but it's useful to you. And that's the thing with Mass Effect. I've been playing Mass Effect since it first came out. I remember when I was very young, when Mass Effect came out, 2007, that I remember seeing it in an Xbox magazine. They had like little promotion. This before the game came out, and I was like, that game looks amazing. Like it was proper next gen. It was really like the power of Xbox 360. I was like, this is incredible. This is amazing. And I remember it was a year or two later, I ended up I found myself in Game or Game Station, video game stores. For anybody who doesn't live in the UK, they're video game stores where you go buy sort of video games from. And they had the pre-owned section because I didn't have a lot of money. I had a few bit of pocket money, so I went to the pre-owned section and I found Mass Effect. And I just straight away I turned it around. I looked at the box art. I saw all the different alien races, and the story on the blurb just sort of pulled me in. I was like, "Yep, this one. I'm having it." I didn't even look at any of the other games. It was like, "This is the one. This is it." I got home, played it. I was blown away. Absolutely blown away by the world, by the characters. I'm only very young. Like I don't think at this point I'm still in primary school. Pardon me, sorry about that. I'm still in primary school. I haven't started senior school yet. I'm still very young, but I just knew at that moment this is my game. This is for me, and it just went from there. I played Mass Effect 1. I played Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, and I just sort of went on this emotional journey. Like, I cried my eyes out so many times to Mass Effect 3. I really did. It's up there, one of them series that, you know, I'm a very emotional person. I do cry, and oh god, I'm getting up to the maximum limit of my recording. I've talked too much. I'm gonna have to. Oh no, no. Well, that's it, folks. I guess. Um, oh, sorry. No, I've got 60 minutes. I'm up on 55. That was a warning. Oh god, I panicked for no reason. All right, I've got to kind of mush it up. Basically, quick round off because I only got 5 minutes left. I didn't know. I thought you could do longer than an hour. Oh god, we've been here for 55 minutes. Anyway, get on with it. Anyway, so Mass Effect. I don't cry a lot. I get emotional. Mass Effect. I cry like a little girl to Mass Effect. Now I've got the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's got all the DLC from Game 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going through that. I've currently spent a day on the first book in total of hours played, and it's going to take me forever to get around to finishing the others. So that's what I'm currently playing. And that's it, really. I panicked for no reason. I've got 5 minutes left. Oh, God. Again, now I know. Now I know I have an hour. If I go over the hour mark, the app sorts of panics and freaks me out. As you saw that I freaked out and panicked and I got really anxious. So I got to calm myself down and relax again. Okay. So we're at the 56 minute and 15-second mark. So I'm going to sign off. I think I've talked enough. So just before I sign off, I want to plug in my Twitter, the Ginger Bookworm. It's the same picture as the one I have for the podcast, which is like all the flames and the skull mask that I'm wearing. So you'd be easy to find me. Or I think it's at book_ginger. I think that's what Twitter puts it as. So if you want to sort of follow me on Twitter, follow me there, and I will post whenever new episodes come up and available. And yeah, this has been exciting. This has been really good. I feel like I've talked enough. You know, I feel like this is generally something that I can do, and I will keep in mind for the future that I need to keep it under an hour. Who knew that I can talk for this much? You know, then again, if we're talking about Mass Effect, oh god, I could do hours and hours and hours. But yeah, I'm really really excited for this adventure. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listened to this first episode, who's gotten this far. It means so much to me. And yeah, I look forward to doing more episodes. I'm thinking my next episode, because I recently watched Eternals on Disney Plus. So for like my next episode, I might talk about Eternals. I don't want to make any promises on that. It's just an idea as now. I've only watched it once. I might need to watch it another 2, 3 more times to properly get it so I can talk about it for quite a long time. But yeah, the next episode will be a short one. It'll be 30 minutes at least. But I look forward to it. I really, really do. So I'm going to sign off my first ever episode. Thank you for everybody who's listening. So for the first time, I'm trying to think of the best way. Sorry, I'll get really sort of emotional right now because I know it's coming to an end. Right, so right, calm down. For the first time, right, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.